group called the School for Designing a Society and invaded mIEKAL's longtime home at the eco-village Dreamtime, where he's lived for a long time. And I went into his house, and he was the first person I'd ever met who had very, very strange poetry on his bookshelves. I was really elated. And then I didn't see him for 15 years or something like that, though I encountered him on and his work on the internet, and it's like, oh, it's that guy I didn't talk to enough when I was there with all those crazy people. And was very glad to cross paths with him again 3 or 4 times now in the past year and a half.
And now we keep running into each other again.
Exactly, which is great. And I hope to make it out to West Lima sometime and see the scene as it stands. And now I'll read his bio, which I was trying to avoid doing, but I'm too tired to extemporize. mIEKAL aND is a longtime DIY cultural anarchist and the creator of an infoplex worth of visual, verbal, lit, audio art, performance, ritual, and hypermedia, all distributed by Zozoxial Editions, handsomely represented here. His hypermedia works reside at Joglar's cross-media broadcast. Recent books with Maria Damon include Eros Ion, Pleasure Text Possession, and Literature Nation. New books in 2009 include How to Spell the Sound of Everything, written with Sheila E. Murphy, and Searchix, Spampo 2000 to 2004, as well as anthology Spider Tangle, visual poetry from members of the Spider Tangle email group. With Camille Bacos, he has produced a number of visual poetry digital films, including Entre Kirobiblios and The Samsara Laundry, which have been shown at festivals at Harvard and Notre Dame. Since 1991, I should translate, right? Since 1991, he has made his home at Dreamtime Village, a hypermedia permaculture village project located in the driftless bioregion of southwestern Wisconsin. And it devotes much time to creating edible wilderness indoors and out, growing such things as figs, citrus, cherries, grapes, and chestnuts. 1998 marked the creation of the Driftless Grotto of West Lima, a permanent public grotto / park / installation, which, when finished, will feature a bird-operated time machine in a 25-foot blue glass tower. So obviously, we'll just be scratching the surface beneath which is mIEKAL aND.
Thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to start with a couple poems from my new book, which should be out anytime. It's called Samsara Conjuries. It's a long poem I've been writing since 1976. It is 17 books. Each book, it's myself reincarnated as a different character. Obviously, I started out when I was still in high school, and so the book starts from very, very linear sort of narrative type things. The first book is myself as a Modoc Indian warrior named Shack Nasty Jack, who was also the second baseman and the head of the Young Red Man's Horse Plagiarizing Society, which I assume meant he stole horses. And then each book, progressively, as I sort of mature and get into other realms, I get into less characterized kinds of characters, where the character in this section is sort of lost in the text. Hopefully, if everything goes correctly, it should be out from BlazeVox by Christmas 2010. Svengali. By way here, I were hanging eternal with eyes crossed as if dislocated for information. Noises heard have cluttered my retention. Each lifeless speaker is working without notion or surplus attention. The isolation of the 18th century America accounted for an infiltration of enormous similar thoughts. The heat dropped on the city. This always slowed me or cornered me in abstraction. Svengali. I told her to lay down. I had just laid zebra skin on a clearing, and the hood fell away from his face. His teeth indicated aggravation. Tomorrow, the publication of a daily newspaper reveals contradictory news of an incident a century previous. Boxes loaded with fragiles was stored on a shelf in a dusty room for 30 years before its contents were materialized. I often read through whole books in the course of a moment, and many books in a sitting, and maybe one idea would emerge in the end. Should I feel loss? I never knew Svengali. He was dead by the event of the 20th century. Run away with age, Svengali looked impoverished. He could look out his window and foresee gloom. Pyramidal research occupied the remainder of Svengali's time. He doubtlessly lapsed into trance repeatedly. What was left of his body by the time the gendarmes shoved it into a body bag. In Tibet, bodies are left in the mountains, and the buzzards claim what is left. Between me and Svengali, 100 years divided the future. About 20 years before I was born, the city received signs. Their hair grew long, people spoke in ideas and looked each other in the eye. Elsewhere, another old man was trapped inside a dusty room. Svengali wrote about her in his notes. I had never thought of photographing nudes, and after I had spent nights with her, I would recall her from memory, and the apparition was never complete. Far, turn, she, you've seen her twisting, hurt beyond, wide river fingers amid fingers stretched back, she spins backwards as if fondly to vanish from memory until endless night was. An early weather forces steam up through the cracks. From a distance immeasurable violence is lowered into the ground. She learned of his power when in a dream a door opened into a larger door. This parallax continued until water rushed through a newly opened door. She shrugs and is swept away. Svengali appears at a window incanting the French she learned as a child. The bleeding finally stopped and I awoke abruptly. A knock at the door and rain shudders against the house. Everyone who comes to the door is desperately alone. An early evening forces steam up through the cracks. From a distance immeasurable violence is lowered into the ground. His body atrophied before it was prepared. He hungrily awaits death, his several minds lathered and resolute. Crushed beneath a storm-fallen tree, the packages were split open and the papers were shredded, flying away. I hurried to gather them. They were filled with hieroglyphic notations of the psychic world. Just in glancing, I noticed Svengali's name mentioned in reference to the knowledge obtained while in trance. To gain exposure in the world of ideas, I would send out writings in the main. Long before, Svengali had participated in a concise, unspoken world of ideas. His visionary projection and telekinetic posturing led many people to change the nature of their concentration and involvement. A nocturnal society of like powers was formed in medieval Europe. No one can recall the last meeting. Gradually, the particular subculture evolved into a species apart from the race, an avant-garde country. Svengali learned of this remote lifestyle and was still a student at the College of Particular Genius. It brought him a long ways quickly. The movie ran continuously for days. In it, Svengali was assigned the predicted sinister roles, seducing the female lead, appearing at the sight of blood and death, talking softly and convincingly. The first day I managed to sit anxiously without flinching. The second day I began to get hungry and tired and crave companionship. At the end of a week, I no longer had any awareness of the human proportions. I heard it in my hand for a long... I heard it in my hand. There's a typo here. I heard it in my hand for a long time. When I looked away, it left. Birds took to me easily, flocking and following me. Such intimate wilderness suggested a freedom and knowing. Ultimately, the women of Svengali were always alone. Dogs lost in the city roamed restlessly. They fed off rodents and garbage behind buildings. Svengali stepped out his door and headed toward the bistro. He sank into knowing like bodies absorbed in convulsion. I suspect Svengali acquired much of his knowledge by change. The next piece I'm going to read is from a section called Babily, The Destruction of Mindfuck Diplomacy. And this is the poem I wrote when my son was born in 1987. And there's all these names in it. And it's myself trying to think of the name. I'm just going through all these names in my head for my son who was not quite born. I think I actually wrote it the day before he was born. Quantical fatherization. Boo Jammer teeth marks worked in hot music and swore down. He spelled curiosity no longer belongs. They are hurting. I am hunted. Now 7 days later, we tell shock blunt announce power of Damata. Blandishments does air limbs or not at all name of days and carried under be nulled or isn't bisomial laborious. By the pastor of each, the English word ascends, first sockets unstrung from agile gate tubes. While more naughty squeals, disease reveals poisonous cure. I'm glad a bag of ruddy Davids leads curvage or need handles quantical fatherization, burn allowance factory, caretaker narrowly winces. The dog is greener than the foodstuff blankets. One collapse is what shortcomings of medulla, the Medusa fringe hamper. Came once the multiple nameless foreigner, babe traveler, curtain blankness, they seen or not yet all sight, indenture markings written while deaf. Allusion spread rumor, how nasty the beginners, run on sentence structure, once the line immortal, then heard in underbrush in the dark. Approximately in jeopardy for the son, the daughter whispers wisher what, and is louder for Christ, like crying or radiator jackets battle timbers, Uncle Dust, yes sire, yes sir. Abrupt happenings cancels wisdom appointments. The last liaison broods chasm margins. Hobnumber rattlecakes met converse doubles and now for ambling derivation. Final lover supreme, conscious wider, planting a hag labor team. Boot shake howdies tore the taxis clean. Woken plus the side of equals quantical, equal temperature, hybrid damage. We were never alone bundled or not sleep dust wreck on the shape. A keel veers baby shoes or tempered assurance bounds. A day of the date of. Herds crane warbling, namely brother doesn't nipple, team doctor servant clatter at woke at gamble dagger, cloak at nut building, first floor, hiatus image. Ergo labor was cross badge, not bottom plate, am not robot, deem of squad vapor, any human doomed to repeat. Abandoned glass water pallet, blue tags divide where shingles heat allegiance Brutus failure. Tag Humster marble task, tattle handout curtain for sweat wheezer angle brood, fiction synopsis toward derelict. Predator, humble treble murmur would latch, anvil baby master, I've held for the first time my own. Blessed buzz songs for apex, everywhere but all, I'm game of suggestion, blaze work mark, and century lab of daughter dealt. Our gang pawns, far vector displacement, unholier than rancor, data strewn gabbler, plucker wise, double dolls, relieve. Matterhorn dabbler without easel or follow through, pa didn't paw victuals, hogging them instead. Stress blanket for hempted ghost, adjutant the phoneme, bundle equates discord under policy brushing, lo and behold nettle philosophy. Uncome badgering isn't hopeless, turncoat, percentage of requests denied by structure.